tradition. So for this session, we have two speakers who will be joining virtually, and with us, Mr. Kailash Borchi, our second speaker, would be here with us physically. May I request our speaker, Mr. Kailash, to please come forward.
ऑडियंस की तरफ कर दीजिए.
So our first speaker, Geshe Tashi Tseringa, let me introduce him. He was born in Purang, Tibet in 1958. Geshe Tashi Tsering escaped to exile in India with his parents. He received his early education in schools run by exiled Tibetan administration in India. He enrolled as a monk at Serame Monastery in South India in 1970. And in 1990, he finished Geshe Laramba degree. He has been teaching Buddhism in the West since 1991 to 2018, mainly in the UK and other countries. He has written 6 books on Buddhist philosophy and practices and created a 2-year online Buddhist course, The Foundation of Buddhist Thought. He studied for a MA in social anthropology at the School of Oriental and African Studies of London University. In 2018, His Holiness the Dalai Lama appointed him the abbot of Serame Monastic University in India. And 2019, for his services to Buddhism in the UK, Geshe Tashi Tsering is awarded the British Empire Medal. May I request Geshe Tashi Tsering to please present his paper? Thank you.
Oh, yeah. My sincere respects and greetings to all the participants, and also my, from my heart, thanks to all the institutions such as International Buddhist Confederation, Institution of Buddhist Dialectics, and all the directors and organizers. It is not that easy to organize this kind of important conference with it on-site as well as online. I felt deeply honored given this opportunity to talk on the subject of the advent and dissemination of Nalanda wisdom in Tibet under the general topic of legacy of Nalanda tradition, scholarship, and practice. And this, I deeply and sincerely hope, starting from this conference, then coming conferences will produce very tangible positive results that Nalanda traditions, those knowledge, wisdom, to be once again very helpful and useful to the humanity as a general, and in particularly people who follow Buddhist traditions, and within that, among that, Sanskrit traditions. As some of the earlier guests and chief speakers had touched on, how Nalanda Buddhist tradition or the knowledge is important to the humanity, and how when it is started, how it started. So my focus is on the, when and how this amazing tradition is, reached to Tibet and gradually flourish and well established in Tibet for many centuries. And still, although we are in exile in India and in many other countries, still we try to preserve this very meaningful and important ancient knowledge under the guidance of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. It seems this tradition, Nalanda tradition, start to reach to Tibet around 5th century during the regional king called Latori Nyingzen. But around 7th century, one of the great Tibet emperor, Songtsen Khampo, who really worked very hard to bring amazing ancient Indian, among the ancient Indian spiritual traditions, Buddhist tradition, to Tibet. Though he had strong connection to the neighbors' countries like China and Nepal, taking, some of the one from China and one from Nepal's princess as his wife, and they also had contributed to bring Nalanda Buddhist tradition knowledge to Tibet. And under his guidance, several young Tibetan boys were sent to India to train, in Nalanda University. Around that time, Nalanda University was quite well established, though some of the boys or young men were struggled, but some did very, very amazing work, hard work, not only traveling from Tibet, crossing the Himalaya to reaching to Nalanda institution without any our current modern those vehicles or the flies, but mainly simply walking day in, day out to reach there. And not only reach there, but work extremely hard and to bring back some of the important texts and translate into Tibetan. Then the next king, emperor, called Trisong Dechen, who really continued that important work started by his predecessor, Songtsen Khampo, and invited two great scholars and important masters from India, Acharya Shankarakshita and Pema Sambhava. Under their guidance, then serious and hard work started in Tibet to establish true Nalanda traditions. Acharya Shankarakshita himself was one of the top scholars in Nalanda University that time. Very, very well versed and composed several important Madhyamika philosophical texts, as well as Pramana texts. Under his guidance, then start to train young Tibetans to translate from Sanskrit into Tibetan. He suggested to the king, it is better to translate from Sanskrit into Tibetan rather than to study Dharma from the Sanskrit. And under that guidance, the translations are done in a very systematically under the great, what you call the advice of Indian scholars as well as Tibetan scholars, not just by one person, but with the combination of Indian pandits and the Tibetan Losao translators. Around certain stage, there were great translators, Tibetan translators. Unfortunately, around 9th century, there was a king, Tibetan emperor, Langtarma, who had disrupted this continuation. So that early part, from the 7th to until that disruption, is called in Tibetan Dembangatar, earlier dissemination of Buddhism. Though it took time, fortunately, one of the Western regional king and his nephew, Ishe Halama Ishe and Changchuba, under their hard work, then invited such as Atisha, and also start to once again more Tibetan translators like Losao Rinchen Sangpo and many other parts of Losao. Many great translators were produced. And from that part is called in Tibetan Dhamma, which is the second dissemination of Buddhism in Tibet. So under the hard work of these great Indian masters who, like Shankarakshita, Kamalashila, Atisha, and many others, under their guidance and their hard work, with the Tibetan, many great Tibetan translators, current what we have called the two collections, Kanjur and Tenjur, the 808 volumes of Kanjur, the texts which are attributed as teachings of the Buddha, and more than 230-something volumes of commentaries written by great Indian masters. From these huge volumes of amazing, important texts, some translated from Pali, and a few sutra translated from Chinese into Tibetan. But almost 98% of all these, more than, or together, more than 300 volumes of these texts are translated from Sanskrit into Tibetan with the help of Indian Pandits and great Tibetan translators. And around 13th and early 14th century, all these great texts are put into these catalogs, into Kanjur and Tenjur. So the later, the students, scholars, practitioners who would like to study these amazing texts are, systematically put into these, amazingly, nicely put into catalogs, easy to study, and which is not that easy. Though we may say materially, the Tibet is backward, but in terms of knowledge, in terms of these development of these amazing work, Tibetan is, very much in advance. Around that time, some scholars believe, the translation that is done from one language to another language, the volumes that is done by these great scholars, that in terms of the number, Tibet, that translation that Tibetan those scholars have done might be the highest, the number around in that during those times. So therefore, the knowledge that we would like to revive, that as His Holiness Dalai Lama strongly advised and worked very hard, that Nalanda tradition that would like to revive in India and gradually to reach out to all over the world. The knowledge and the resources in terms of the texts are still, freshly and completely, preserved within Tibetan, these monasteries and institutions. It is extremely moving now, hard, very moving to see the Indian governments and the institutions start to pay attention, and not just pay attention, to put hard work to really to make this knowledge available to the, initially to the Indian people and gradually to the world, all over the world. And I strongly believe if we, work hard, this will achieve. It is the Tibetan institutions, those monastic institutions where they have long tradition of studying these important texts, need guidance how to bring this to the outside world, not just in the monastic, the environment, but outside the monasteries, environment. And now it seems we are getting that help and support. And with that combination of what we have in these amazing institutions, with the help of the outside, important institutions such as International Buddhist Confederations and other institutions, I think we can do that. We can achieve, these great wishes of such as His Holiness Dalai Lama. Here, it is not just we have the text. These many, great Indian masters' texts. It is not just the text that we have the structure, how to study. We have the people who know these texts very, very well, have studied years and years and years. As Indian masters have, put together how to study, some, gom, listening, contemplation, and meditation. And these are happening, taking place day in, day out in these monastic institutions. And we really hope, as I mentioned earlier, we are able to take these amazing traditions outside the monasteries to the common people, to have the opportunity to study these amazing texts. The essence of these Nalanda Masters' texts, the subject, is really how to become a good, honest, sincere human being, how to live in human society as a contributor, not a destructor, regardless of backgrounds, regardless of different religions, spiritual tradition that you follow. And that is the essence of these amazing texts. And though there are many other countries, Buddhist countries, even in Sanskrit tradition in China and Japan, but in Tibetan tradition, in the Tibetan, Tibetan tradition that we have, something which is not fully available in other Sanskrit Buddhist traditions, the like in China, as His Holiness says very often, to study pramana, Buddhist logic, Buddhist epistemology, which is extremely helpful and useful tools. So therefore, I will not take too long to say blah, blah, which is not that. We are already late running our conference. So my conclusion is this. Up to recently, people don't have that much understanding what the Tibetans have preserved in their language. Now, due to His Holiness Dalai Lama's hard work, people are starting to see Tibetans have preserved something extremely important, knowledge, which comes from Nalanda tradition. And so not just now we need to raise that awareness that we have, Tibetans have preserved this amazing tradition, but we need to work together to take this to the outside world, to the outside, the monasteries or outside the Tibetan community, to share the world. And in that context, this kind of conference will be extremely helpful. Thank you. Thank you for the chair.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Sorry, because of the lack of time, we have to cut short. Now each speaker is going to speak 20 minutes. We'll try and stick to the time. And in the end, we had 20 minutes for question answers. So we're going to make it 10 minutes. So let me introduce our second speaker, Mr. Kailash Bodri, who will be speaking on Buddhist ethics. And Mr. Kailash Chandra Bodh was born in Sankisa, Uttar Pradesh, India. He pursued his MA Buddhist Studies from Delhi University. In 2005, he joined College for Higher Tibetan Studies, SARA, and later studied from Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, where he collected topics like Lorik, Tarik, Parchen, and Uma. He's also attended several seminars and conferences. Currently, he's pursuing his Abhidharma course at IBD. Mr. Kailash is also a Hindi translator of His Holiness the Dalai Lama since 2012. Welcome, Kailashji.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. First of all, I bow down to Tathagat Sakyamuni Gautam Buddha, the ocean of wisdom and compassion. My greetings to the distinguished speakers. Maybe Dr. Bhikkhu Dhammapriyaji is not here, maybe somewhere. And he's who's IBC General Secretary. Geshe Samten Gyasula, Director of Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, and Mr. Pasang Seringji, the Principal of Higher Tibetan College, and other speakers, they already gone. The speakers who are here to enlighten us and the participants who are attend this international conference. I thank IBC and IBD for giving me the opportunity to speak at this day, at this one-day conference. I spent I want to recall my days here. I have spent many years in this college since starting my formal study of Buddhist philosophy in the year 2006 at IBD. The students from those times may not be here, but the most of the teachers are the same. So I feel humbled to present my paper in front of my teachers who have nurtured me with their wisdom. On the other hand, I also assume that my gurus may be proud to see their student participate in this conference, that they can judge whether they have given me the right training or not. I thank my all gurus for their love and care throughout these years of imparting knowledge to me. I really thanks my all gurus. Due to them, I am here, I am standing on this stage. And at the first, I want to make clear that my English is not that good. So there must be, of course, I confess that there will be many, many mistakes. Please apologize me for my shortcomings. The subject of Buddhist ethics or impact of Buddhist ethics given to me by the organizing committee is very broad and serious. So I will try to explain as much as possible, or I will try to make it very clear if I could. It feels very strange to me, of course, because you all are very much nurtured in Buddhism and also in the Buddhist ethics. So I don't think I can really make an impact on all of you. And I don't want to limit this subject with the Buddhist only, or with only the Buddhism, because this is not for only one particular religion or one tradition, because all the teachings of the Buddha was given for the all sentient being on the theme of Bhojan Hitai, Bhojan Sukhai, Lokanukampai. That means the benefit of maximum number of human being or sentient being on this planet. For example, we take the example of water. So water quenches the thirst of everyone, no matter from which religion they belongs, what kind of their caste, from what are the nation, they are young or old, men or women. So it's for everyone. So same as the Buddhist ethics for everyone, like water needed for everyone. So yes, so I think this Buddhist ethics or this for everyone. So it is very clear whoever practiced this Buddhist ethics, I think they really, how to say, change or kind of make their life very beneficial, very helpful for last 2,600 years. And Buddhist ethics is universal for the people of this world. Actually, I should not say only the people of this world, actually sentient being of this world. The ethics taught by the Tathagat Buddha about 2,600 years ago, even relevant today. If the Buddha has not talked about the morality or ethics, then even at that time, we would not have tried to, he might not have tried to discriminate related to untouchability. That time, the high and low caste system in India, discriminations, many things happened since the Buddha's time. So he also tried to eliminate these all things. And you know very well that the Upali, who was the first, the Vinay Mokh, the Upali Baba, he was from Baba community, and the Sunit, the scavenger, and another very famous, that's Amrapali courtesan from Vaisali, and many others who were belonged to the lower caste, so-called lower caste in India. He embraced everyone in Buddhism and gave the same opportunity. So there was no greater, or there was no greater person than Buddha who taught the morality at that time. And even today, we cannot find such kind of person in this world. I think in the world today, there is a great need of Buddhist ethics. In this age of competition, people forget their own limits, and for putting themselves first, they're doing many unwholesome actions or even the unethical acts. So I think this is really not good. This is they're doing because they forget their ethical, or how to say, the value of human beings. That's why they are not hesitate to kill anyone, any person. Since we all know that we are human being, or we are, how to say, social animal, we have to live in the society. So we can, so if we see the unethical, or we do the unethical acts which are the, how to say, against the law, and I think this is very, very terrible thing in this world. So as long as our mind is not pure, then we may continue this kind of very, very bad things. So yes, so for in this way, like on the basis of Buddhist ethics, Buddha told in Dhammapada, in the 5th sloka of Yamakbag, Nai Beren Verani, Samanti Kudachanam, awareness Samanti is Dhammo Sanantano. So this means that a hater cannot be appeased by the hatred in this world. By non-hater alone and hater appeased. This is the eternal law. So we understand this very well. All you know, we have been, how to say, studies these all ethical things. So just I am recalling in front of all of you. So how do you think that killing a person frees you from all kind of suffering? I don't think that, because if you kill one person, there is the really or endless suffering start from beginning, from the right now. Because if we kill one person, then his family or her family, they will come us to kill, and also they will try to destroy our family, our friends. So this anger is very, very, very dangerous. That's why the Buddha told in Dhammapada, in the 5th sloka, which I am explaining here. So therefore, all kind of unwholesome or unethical acts are done because of the influence of our mind. Our unruly mind commands us to the physical, verbal, and mental actions. If you do good deeds, then you will have happiness. If you do the unethical deeds, then you will get suffering and or dukkha. So yes, I will not explain all because of sort of time. So I would like only the main things I will explain here. So another verses Tathagat Buddha spoke in Dhammapada. It's very, very important. The very first 2 verses very important. He's saying Manopabangama Dhamma Manusritta Manomaya Manasach Paduttena Bhasadava Karutila Toto Nang Dukha Manaveti Chakang Baba Topadam. And next one, Manopabangama Dhamma Manusritta Manomaya Manasach Pasajan Bhasativa Karutiva Tato Nang Sukhan Manaveti Chayavan Pani. This meaning there's mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all the mind's rot or the slaves. If with an impure mind, a person speaks or acts, suffering follows him like the wheel that follows the foot of the ox. This is the first. And second, what saying, mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They all are might route. If with a pure mind, a person speaks or acts, happiness follow him like this never departing shadow. So these 2 verses are very, very important. No matter they are Buddhist or non-Buddhist, belong from which kind of background, from which kind of country, this doesn't matter. This is very, very important. And after that, you know, well, the Buddha also spoke about the 10 unwholesome deeds, or das akusal, and opposite of das kusal. So these are very important. I will not explain here. Only I will how to say, give you their name or categories, how many they are. So on the basis of the actions performed by the body, so there are 3. So abstaining from killing or living beings. So we should not kill any living being, and we should abstain from the stealing. We should not steal anything, and we should not do the sexual misconduct. So these are 3 actions or wholesome actions which we do by the body. And there's 4 wholesome actions which perform by our speech. How to say by our speech? Yes, abstaining from the false speech. We should not speak the lie, and abstaining from malicious speech. abstaining from the harsh speech, abstaining from the gossip, and then the last three, which are performed by our mind. So these are very, I think, very, very dangerous. That's abstaining from what we should do. We should abstaining from covetousness, abstaining from ill will, and processing right understanding of the Dharma. This is very important. Yes, I do believe that as human beings living in this world, we have to practice them and we have to assimilate them, wholesome deeds or action in our life. If you commit the 10 unethical wholesome deeds, then you have to go to jail. This is the law of our society. Not only this belong to the Buddhist concept. We have to go. This, you know, we all know this. Whether you are Buddhist or not, Buddha will not come to save you. Buddha will never say that this is my student, please forgive him. Thoda chhoot de do, kabhi nahi bolna. Because Buddha will say he did the wrong thing. Whatever I taught, he not listening me. You should take him, you should punish him. So that's why even Buddha will not him. That's, we all know. He say, I only show you the path. I cannot give you the attainment. I cannot the enlightenment. I cannot put my knowledge into you. So you have to go. I only show the path. मैं मोक्षदाता नहीं हूँ, मार्गदाता हूँ. So I am only the path shower, not enlightened, attaining the let you to one. I will only show the path. So you have to do or not is up to you. So we can see the theme of this Buddhist Global Buddhist Conference: legacy of Nalanda tradition, scholarship, and practice. Yes, so what I think that the practice is very much important. His Holiness always speak about his practice. If we do the practice, we can save our life. We can do a lot good things for humanity and also for others sentient being. No matter what kind of the sentient being are, like animals, dog, or whatever. So we can also save them if we really follow the ethics of Buddhist ethics. Yes, I feel that there's many scholars who had come out from the Nalanda, ancient Nalanda institution, maintained and kept alive Buddhism and practice of ethics. I actually here, I tell again and again about the how to say, explanations that might not be beneficial for you because you all already trained. But I would like to quote the Santideva's very famous verse. Who was the 8th century scholars from Nalanda Mahavira. And he is speaking in Bodhicharya Avatar, or a guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. He's saying, Sedantavud Dikwames, Sobatavud Kathumes, Deve Sunat and Nentendus, Naso Suldu Gombarchas. So what he's saying, there is no evil like hatred and no fortitude like the presence. Thus, I should strive in various ways to meditate on patience. It's very important. There's no sin greater than anger, because the moment anger arises, that is to eradicate the virtues we accumulate for aeons, for many years. As we know that, maybe most of you don't know, the Sri Nalanda Mahavira's scholars, they went to Tibet, China, and many other countries. If you talk about the Nalanda, then the impact of Buddhist ethics was profound on Tibetan masters as well, and also on the kings. Previous speakers, they already mentioned about that, so I no need to tell again here. But just so you know, Geshe-la was speaking about Santarakshita, Dipanga, Srigyan, and the Kamalshil, Shantideva, and so forth. So they all taught the Buddhist philosophy, ethics, logic, epistemology, meditation, and this impact of these all the subject went to Tibet, Mongolia, China, and many other countries. On how to say, so about the ethical conduct, the great scholar of 11th century from Tibet, Geshe Langri Thamba, he spoke in his 8 verses of mind training. That's called the Chitta Sodhana ke Ashtapad or Lojong Sigema. Cholam kuntu rangula, tokching nyomong kemata, dakshin marong chepenas, center dongne topper source. This verse actually, this text is very small, only 8 verses. So what he's saying in this particular verse, in all my deeds may I probe into my mind. And as soon as mental and emotional afflictions arise, as they endanger myself and others, may I strongly comfort and avert them. So Geshe that's you see, the Geshe Langri Thangpa instruct us as very well to check our mind in every circumstances. And as soon as harmful afflictions arise in our mind, we should strike them with force. Usually what people do, they do not strike on their mental affliction, but welcome them, let them come, okay. So I'm trying to quote these kind of different texts because apart from the scholars named above, whatever Santideva and so on, many other scholars had come from the ancient Nalanda University and greatly contributed to spread Buddhist ethics among the masses and made it long lasting, which can be seen now. Buddhism is not a religion, actually, what we should know, what we should think. Buddhism is a way of life, how we live, how can we live in properly, how can we live with our proper physical way, verbal and mental actions. And it's a very strong and steadfast. If there is any disturbance in any one of these 3 stores of action, then I think this is very important to learn the way of Nalanda tradition, actually the way of Buddhist ethics of the Buddhism. So I'm not saying that everyone should learn the Buddhism or the typical text. So what I am trying to say, there's the ethical things which are very, very beneficial for everyone. Doesn't matter what kind of religion we follow. So the people sitting here in this hall, religious, may be religious and must believe in some religious traditions. If we follow or practice any religions, we are religious person. Then it is very important to have a good character in the regard to Buddha says in the Lokubhag again in Dhamma Parvati saying, Dhammang charet sucharating natchang dukcharate satam dhammachari suke seti asmiloke pahincha. Conduct dharma with a good character, never conduct dharma with an evil character, because only the righteous live happily in this world and thereafter. So this indication for like 2 minutes I had that. Okay, thank you. So I will not speak because it's many. So at the last, I want to say, yes, the situation of today's world. At the present, when we look at Afghanistan, for example, common citizens are, especially the girls or women, are being tortured by the so-called the Talibanis or terrorists. There is chaos all over the country. This is a country where the Buddhism and Buddhist ethics was dominant at the time of great Emperor Asoka in the 3rd century BC. The Gandhara art of making Buddha statues were developed there. There was a peace and harmony all around the country, but now the situation is terrible. We all know that. So this why this happened, where the lacking of the Buddhist ethics, the things is happening there. So please don't understand or think that I'm against with them or I don't have such kind of sympathy with them, because we have to live in this world. He's always saying that we have to live in this world side by side. So this is our moral responsibility to think about them. Yes. So in modern time, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is pursuing Buddhist ethics and inspiring the world to follow it. We all know this. And you know that how much suppression there in the Tibet by China. They destroy and are still destroying the art, culture, and Buddhist texts, language, etc. But His Holiness never advised to be the violent. Why he should do that? He could do something for every people of Tibet may be ready to fight against them, but they never do it, because His Holiness is a real follower of Buddha, is a real Sakya Buddhist or monk, as he always saying. And finally, I want to end here with His Holiness' famous quote about the true meaning of life. He says, we are visitor on this planet. We are here for 90 or 100 years at the very most. During that period, we must try to do something good, something useful with our lives. If you contribute to other people's happiness, you will find the true goal, the true meaning of life. Once again, thank you very much to IBC, IBD, and other organization for organizing such kind of wonderful seminar. And I want to say that just Geshe-la told us, Geshe-la Abdullah, we should update ourselves. So I think today, I am sure we will really update something from here, from this conference. And this updation, we will carry to many other people, so they also update themselves, and we can go together in this 21st century. And thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Thank you very much. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Kailash Moji. Now our next speaker is Dr. Pooja Dabral. She's joining with us virtually. Dr. Pooja Dabral is an assistant professor, Department of Buddhist and Tibetan Studies at Namgyal Institute of Tibetology, Gangtok, Sikkim. Her doctoral research topic is Nagarjuna's philosophy of emptiness and Je Tsongkhapa's exposition, Descent in Two Prolific Periods. She has teaching and research experience with a range of institutions, including the University of Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Tibet House, and YMCA. Pooja has numerous publications and also presented papers on the themes such as the practice of emptiness, Anatman, a Buddhist approach to inner and world peace, Buddhist psychology, form and substance in Buddhist philosophy, and so forth, at national and international conferences and seminars. She is proficient in Tibetan and German and has taught the latter for many years at the University of Delhi and other institutions. I welcome Dr. Pooja Dabral.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to start by thanking the organizers, IBC, ICCR, and IBD for organizing this wonderful conference and giving me the opportunity to share the concept of emptiness, which is Shunyata in Sanskrit, and Bodhicitta in Nalanda tradition. And of course, I'm very pleased and honored to share this panel with the venerable, most respected venerable Geshe Tashi Seringla, and also dear Kailash from IBD. And also I pay my regards to the esteemed dignitaries who graced the inaugural session. And one more thing that I would like to say before I start my paper is that the Sara Institute, the College for High Tibetan Studies, is very close to my heart because I spent around 2 years learning Tibetan there. And I really thank the principal, the teachers who taught me language, as well as Bodhicharya Avatar, and also the fellow Tibetan students and the classmates and the flatmates who made this, who kind of enabled me to learn this very beautiful Tibetan language faster than usual. So I really thank Sara College for all the opportunity they have given to me. And I'm very happy to be part of this conference, which is happening at Sara College. And I wish I could join the, in physical, but still I'm very happy that I'm part of it virtually. Okay, so now I'll go on to my topic. Before for that, I would like to share the PPT. Nilzala, can I share the PPT? It says it is disabled.
Hello, Pujala, could you please share again?
Okay, I'll try. Okay, Is it visible? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so as you can see on the screen, the topic for my paper is the concept of Shunyata and Bodhicitta in Nalanda tradition. And in fact, they are the core of Buddha's teaching and should be seen as the two most integral part of one's journey towards nirvana and Buddhahood. And now when I use the word nirvana and Buddhahood, I'm sure there must be people who think that, okay, then this study, this learning, reflection, and meditation on the concept of Shunyata and Bodhicitta is meant for those people who are interested in some kind of soteriological goals like nirvana and Buddhahood. But in fact, the way Venerable Geshe Tassarengla said, and also Kailashji added, the Buddha's teachings are meant for somebody who wants to go from state of suffering to the happiness. So this teaching of Shunyata and Bodhicitta, and also the goal of nirvana and Buddhahood, if somebody understands them in the most nuanced form, they will recognize that they are the reflection of the two basic aspirations that all sentient beings share. For example, the basic aspiration to not to want suffering or to shun suffering. In technical terms, we call it nirvana. And the basic aspiration to achieve the infinite happiness where your mind feels no barrier, limitations, and obstructions and can flow to all sentient beings without any biases. In technical term, we call it Buddhahood or omniscience or full awakening. So if we understand the two goals like this, these teachings will be relatable and the contemplation and meditation on these topics will become extremely essential for our growth. Okay, so now without taking much time, now this is the verse which is by the great Saint Sarha, who is the teacher of Arya Nagarjuna, the 2nd century great Nalanda master, who is revered as second Buddha for expounding the Mahayana teaching, the Buddhist Mahayana teaching in the most succinct and extensive and nuanced form. So his teacher, the great Saint Sarha, he kind of summarizes the theme of my paper, which is the practice of Shunyata and Bodhicitta in unison. So he says, by entering into emptiness, but devoid of great compassion, one will not find the supreme path. So what he wants to say here is that if one practices wisdom of emptiness without the emphasis on great compassion, one will not achieve the supreme path. In other words, one will not enter the Mahayana path, a path which wishes all beings to be freed of suffering. Then he goes further saying, by meditating upon compassion alone without the wisdom of emptiness, one will not attain liberation but remain in samsara. And on the other hand, if someone practices compassion for countless aeons and other practices taught by Buddha, such as the different level of samadhis, wisdom of impermanence, wisdom of other wisdom of selflessness for countless aeons, but without the practice of wisdom of emptiness, one will not be able to cut the root of suffering. So therefore, he says, whoever is capable of apprehending the unity of two will not remain in samsara and nor abide in personal nirvana. So somebody who can recognize the essence of these two concepts, Shunyata and Bodhicitta, as extremely essential and to be practiced in unison, will not remain in samsara, means will be able to cut the root of all our miseries, and also nor abide in personal nirvana, means will not just abide in the extreme of personal nirvana, but achieve the omniscience or the state of highest perfection, which is known as Buddhahood, for the benefit of all sentient beings. So therefore, anybody who aspires for the welfare of all sentient beings, including one's aspiration to be freed of all fears of life, should embrace Shunyata, the practice of Shunyata and Bodhicitta. So what is Bodhicitta? So now I'll go to the meaning of each of these words, Bodhicitta and Shunyata, and they are extremely profound and intricate teachings of Buddha. And I'll try to give you an overview how these concepts have been explained and delineated and classified in the treatises of great Nalanda masters. So Bodhicitta. Okay, so wait a second. Okay, so in Dhammasangati Sutra, Buddha said, Bhagwan, Bodhisattvas should not learn many teachings. Bhagwan, if bodhisattvas grasp and know one teaching, they will have all of the Buddha's teaching in the palm of their hand. And then Buddha rhetorically asked, what is that one thing? And then he responded, it is great compassion. So what Buddha is saying here, the ground for Buddha's 84,000 teachings is great compassion. So whatever teaching we embrace, be it of ethics, be it of samadhi, be it of renunciation, be it of wisdom of emptiness, the ground for 84,000 teachings of Buddha is great compassion, which is a mind that wishes all sentient beings to be freed of suffering. Okay, so and this great compassion is the cause for bodhicitta, but before I go to the technical definition of bodhicitta, I would like to draw your attention to a few words here, which is great compassion, altruism, and bodhicitta, because they are more likely to be mixed up if the nuances are missed. So great compassion, how it is defined is the mind which wishes all sentient beings to be freed of suffering. And then with this mind, which wishes all sentient beings to be freed of suffering, one is bound to come up with the question that who will take the responsibility to free all sentient beings to be freed of suffering? So the moment one gets to the aspiration that I will take the responsibility to free all sentient beings from this suffering, the mind one has cultivated is known as altruism. And then with this mind of altruism, one is again bound to come up with the question that, okay, I took the responsibility, I cultivated this very courageous mind to take the responsibility to take all beings away from their miseries, but how can I do that? So then the moment one gains the conviction that, okay, in order to benefit the beings or take them away from this suffering, the most effective way is through achieving enlightenment or a state freed of all limitations, then one is going towards the cultivation of bodhicitta. So therefore, the bodhicitta, these two, so therefore the great compassion and altruism, they are the indispensable causes for bodhicitta, but they themselves are not bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, then how bodhicitta is defined? So bodhicitta, as Arya Maitreya's Abhisamaya Alankara says, bodhicitta is defined as bodhicitta is what aspires to attain the thorough and complete enlightenment for the welfare of others. So as you can see here, the mind of bodhicitta has a very specific goal, which is to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. The previous two aspirations, which is the wish to help all beings, or which is the wish to free all beings from their suffering, and also taking the responsibility to free all from their suffering, does not have a specific goal that how can I do that. But when one cultivates mind of bodhicitta, then one has a very clear goal in mind, which is to attain the state of enlightenment or omniscience for the benefit of all sentient beings. And then it also says that it is the gateway to Mahayana path. So only when somebody tries to cultivate bodhicitta, the mind which aspires to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, one is said to be practicing the Mahayana path. And the moment one has this bodhicitta in its full-fledged form, where you have this aspiration to become Buddha in the spontaneous form, then one gets the entry to the Mahayana path. So the moment one gets the end, and then from that moment onwards, one is entitled as a bodhisattva. Okay, so now, this bodhicitta, which allows one to unravel one's potential to the highest level of perfection, which is Buddhahood, is praised by Nalanda masters in their treatises. For example, Arya Nagarjuna's Bodhicitta Vivarana, then Bodhisattva Shantideva's Bodhisattva's way of life, they all praise this bodhicitta. For example, in this text, Bodhisattva's way of life, Bodhisattva Shantideva said, it, referring to bodhicitta, is like the supreme goal-making elixir, for it transforms the unclean body we have taken into the priceless jewel of a Buddha form. Therefore, firmly seize this awakening mind, or bodhicitta. In English, it is translated as awakening mind. So what Bodhisattva Shantideva is saying, when we compare the bodies or the aggregates that we have with the aggregates of the Buddhas or the enlightened beings, it's not necessarily Buddha Shakyamuni, any enlightened being, then we will see a stark contrast. Our body and mind, they are endowed with a lot of problems and limitations, whereas the Buddhas do not have any limitations. So what makes the difference is this mind of bodhicitta. Once this mind of bodhicitta is cultivated, it works like a elixir that transforms the uncontaminated body and mind we have into the contaminated body and mind we have into the uncontaminated bodies of the enlightened ones. Therefore, he encourages us to seize this awakening mind firmly. Okay, now if this bodhicitta is so precious, then who can cultivate this bodhicitta, and what are the causes of this bodhicitta? Then again, the Nalanda treatises, in many of the Nalanda texts, the basis and the causes of bodhicittas are being discussed. So what do you mean by basis of bodhicitta? It simply means that anybody with any kind of physical and mental basis, in other words, any being of the 6 realms can cultivate, if puts effort in the right direction, can cultivate bodhicitta. So when it comes to the cultivation of bodhicitta, there is no difference. The gender, caste, creed, and the status does not make any difference. And then if we can cultivate, now the question is, now if I can cultivate the bodhicitta, now if this bodhicitta is so precious, at the same time I have the potential to cultivate this bodhicitta, then why don't I have bodhicitta? So then the causes, then the master said, the teacher said, the treatises mentioned that we are not having, although we have the potential to cultivate this beautiful mind of bodhicitta, but we lack this bodhicitta because we are always embracing the causes of the opposite of bodhicitta, which is the self-centered attitude, which simply destroys us and limits our potential to benefit all sentient beings. So therefore, these treatises delineate and elaborate the causes of bodhicitta, both in general as well as the main causes. And due to the constraint of time, I won't go into the details of each of these causes, but just for your information, the causes in general are referring to the 4 causes, 4 conditions, and 4 powers. For example, the display of the fortitude to bear the hardship while working for the welfare of others is one of the cause of igniting this beautiful mind of bodhicitta. And likewise, reading the material on the unfathomable power of bodhisattva serves as a condition for ones to attain this, to cultivate this mind of bodhicitta. So these are the causes in general which support the cultivation of bodhicitta. But what are the main causes? Then Arya Maitriya's Abhisamaya Alankara and also Bodhisattva Shantideva's Bodhicharya Avatar and Arya Nagarjuna's Bodhicitta Vivarana, they talk about the 2 methods, the 2 main methods which can be used as the main causes to generate bodhicitta. These 2 methods are known as 7-fold cause and effect method, and number 2, the method of equalizing and exchanging self with others. And both of these methods were taught by Shakyamuni Buddha himself and were passed down to the masters through different lineages. And finally, as Venerable Geshe Tashi Seringla said, the point of confluence of these 2 methods is Atisha Dipankara Shirigyana, who disseminated Buddha's teaching in Tibet and also disseminated these 2 methods to the Tibetans. Okay, so now these 2 methods, for the first method, which is the 7-fold cause and effect method, and the second method, which is the equalizing and exchanging self for other method, these 2 methods, they are referred to as the main causes for the reason that they give a very systematic and stepwise way for one to keep going closer to the mind of bodhicitta. And the 7-fold cause and effect method, it has 7 steps, while the equalizing and exchanging self for other method, it has 9 steps. And if you read the steps, you will come to know that they are grounded on one very important psychology, that these steps give us the reasons and the rationality to trigger the cognitive processes, the cognitive thought processes, to let our mind flow to all sentient beings without biases. So in different ways, they have the different approach, but both the methods are grounded on the rationality and the reasons that help us to trigger the cognitive thought processes so that our mind feels no barrier and flows to all sentient beings without biases. And when one's mind can flow to all sentient beings without biases, one feels the ease. And when one feels the ease, then taking the step towards bodhicitta becomes very easy. So now, due to constraint of time, we cannot go into the details of that. But if somebody is interested, they are very beautifully delineated in Abhisamaya Alankara, as well as Bodhisattva Shantideva's Bodhicharya Avatar, and also other treatises of Nalanda masters. So now, This now with this bodhicitta, which is the spontaneous aspiration to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, what one should be doing. So now bodhicitta simply says that may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So then we have to take steps to become Buddha. So what are the steps that one should be taking in order to become Buddha? So then Buddha exhorted to Shariputra. He said, Shariputra, here the bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, who aspire to attain thorough and complete enlightenment, to cognize all phenomena with all their aspects, must put effort in the perfection of wisdom. So finally, somebody with the aspiration of bodhicitta, what should this person be doing? This person should put effort to learn, contemplate, and meditate on the perfection of wisdom, known as wisdom of emptiness. Okay, so this is the second part of my paper, emptiness. In Sanskrit, we call it shunyata. And then what is this emptiness precisely? So as His Holiness the Dalai Lama, explains it in his text, How to See Yourself as You Really Are. And also, I think in Universe in Single Atom, it is defined as the fundamental truth of the way things really are is described in Buddhist treatises as shunyata or emptiness. In other words, the ultimate reality of all phenomena is emptiness. And what is this emptiness? Does it mean nothingness? The answer is no. Emptiness is a short form of emptiness of objective existence. It simply means that things do not exist from the way they appear to us as so from their own side or objectively real. Okay, and then to go into the little bit understanding of this emptiness, I would like to read this sutra, which is a highly requested sutra. In this sutra, Buddha clearly mentioned the nature of reality, which is, he says, various delightful flowers blossom and the sparkling supreme golden abode stands so alluring. For none of these is there a creator. They are posited by the power of thought. It is through conceptualization that the world is imputed. So in this sutra, Buddha very clearly indicated that the world and the phenomena do not exist the way they appear to us. If we take a moment, we all will agree that the things appear to exist from their own side or from the object side, nothing to do with the subjective imputation. But then Buddha said in the last line, it is through conceptualization that the world is imputed. But although things appear to exist from their own side or appear to exist from the object side, but they do not exist from their object side. And this is what he discovered, that is that when one sees things to exist from the object side, this lies at the core of all our suffering. In technical terms, we call it self-grasping ignorance. Okay, so now so how can I know that, okay, when I see things as objectively real, while they do not exist objectively or independently real, then how can it lead to the miseries or the undesirable experiences? So then Arya Nagarjuna very clearly delineated in Mula Madhyamika Karika this verse, which talks about the mechanism of rise and end of samsara in 5 steps. In Mula Madhyamika Karika, chapter 18, he talks about this rise of samsara through self-grasping ignorance. What is that? The mind which grasps at all phenomena as independently or objectively real. While everything exists as illusion-like or dream-like through subjective imputation, when we grasp at them as objectively real, they take us to through the chain of afflictions and contaminated karmas, they end up in miseries as opposed to nirvana. Okay, so now this emptiness. So finally, what these masters delineated in their treatises is that this view of emptiness is the final liberating factor. Out of all the 84,000 teachings of the Buddha, if you have to pick up the liberating factor, it is the view of emptiness, and it is very well explained with all the technicalities by Acharya Dharmakirti in his text Pramanavartika. Okay, now this same wisdom of emptiness, these technicalities are very important to know, because then we can, if we know all this little bit of nuances and technicalities, we will embrace all the teachings of the Buddha in a complete form, and will not discard discard one over the other. Okay, for example, this practice of wisdom of emptiness, when it is driven by the renunciation. Renunciation is a mind which wishes oneself to be freed of suffering. Then the same wisdom of emptiness helps one to eliminate the afflictive obscuration and reach the state of nirvana. In English, we call it personal liberation. However, if the same wisdom of emptiness is driven by renunciation plus mind of bodhicitta as aspiration, the same wisdom of emptiness works as a sharp axe to cut not only the afflictive, but also the cognitive obscuration, and then leads one to reach the state of Buddhahood, which is the omniscience for the welfare of all sentient beings. So in other words, whether one aspires for the personal liberation or aspires for the Mahayana path for the welfare of all sentient beings, one has to learn, reflect, and meditate on wisdom of emptiness. And then just for your information, we cannot go into the details, that there are 4 major schools of Buddhist metaphysics, and all these 4 Buddhist schools, they have slightly different presentations of what constitute the ultimate reality. The way I presented today is in line with the highest Buddhist tenet, which is Prasangika Madhyamika, and it is not highest because of any other reason. It is highest because it presents the subtlest ultimate reality in the form of emptiness of objective existence, which simply means that nothing exists from the object the way it appears to us, but exists through by dependence on subjective imputation as illusion-like. Okay, so these are the different level of emptiness they talk about in different Buddhist tenets, and somebody interested in the study and research on emptiness, one will be able to see that all these levels are extremely important in order to understand the subtlest level of emptiness as presented by Prasangika tenets. Okay, so these are the other nuances that one needs to pay attention to for getting to the correct view of emptiness. I won't go into the detail. So last thing that I would like to emphasize before I conclude. So and also these are the different reasonings that are delineated in and explained in the treatises of Nalanda masters to get to emptiness. So if emptiness is so important and also very profound and intricate, is there any way to reach to emptiness? So answer is yes. There are several reasonings delineated through which one can go into the nuances and discern emptiness of the various objects. Okay, so this is the last slide that I would like to share, and this will help us to not to fall to the extreme of nihilism and absolutism. So finally, the question comes, okay, the emptiness is most of the time misconstrued as nothingness. So then when I say nothing exists from the object and everything exists by subjective imputation, one can get the impression that everything is like imagination and I can do anything and the law of karma does not make sense. So to clarify this misconception, Arya Nagarjuna in his text Bodhicitta Vivarana says very clearly, okay, I'll read the words. Those who understand this emptiness of all phenomena, yet also conform to the law of karma and its result, that is more amazing than amazing. That is more wondrous than wondrous. So what he wants to say that with your study, reflection, and meditation on view of emptiness, if your conviction in the law of karma increases and you can easily comply with the functionalities of the world without any contradictions, one is going closer and closer to the view of emptiness. However, if through one's study, reflection, and meditation on emptiness, one's belief in law of karma is diminishing and one can think that, okay, finally nothing exists, so I can do anything. So then in a way you have not understood the final intent of Buddha, which is the emptiness of independent existence. Okay, with this, I'll conclude and thank you.
Thank you, Pujala, for this wonderful presentation. Now, because of the lack of time, if there's any question from the audience, maybe we can take up 2 questions. Yeah.
What's the relationship between ethics, Buddhist ethics, and shunyata, emptiness? What's the relationship between Buddhist ethics and shunyata?
This question is to which speaker, please?
To Geshe-la and Sarah.
Okay. What's the, as just earlier speaker, her last conclusion quoted from Nagarjuna's text, that really, explains very well, because emptiness doesn't mean nothing. Emptiness, it means everything. Everything in the sense, not from its own side, not from its own right, dependently arising. So ethics, when you talk about ethics, we're talking about, action with the, the human action with the intention. So whatever action that we do, either, constructively or destructively, there is a, if we do it constructively, that is virtue, ethical. If we do it destructively, that is, non-virtue or unethical. And those actions are, whatever actions, constructively or destructively, dependently arising, not inherently or not, something from their own right. And that is what here the emptiness, they really talk about. The connection between the understanding of emptiness, better understanding of emptiness that you have, the individual will able to live, more ethically. As this just early speaker, the last quotation, it makes perfect, the conclusion.
Any other question? We'll take up one more question, if anybody has.
My question is for Dr. Pooja. Is shunyata awareness, or is awareness simply a shunyata?
Thank you for this question. And is shunyata awareness? Okay, so this awareness word, which is English word, quite ambiguous, and in different, I would say, traditions, this word awareness is used in different contexts. So why I'm going into these nuances, because when you said awareness, you could mean a very different referent than what comes to many other people's mind. So awareness, in some, like some non-Buddhist traditions, the awareness can be used in the context of a self also, which is permanent, unitary, and independent. Whereas in the Buddhist context, when we use the word awareness for the term sem or lo, then it means the mind. And emptiness, okay, so when I say, so there are a little bit of nuances. So when I say emptiness, it is the emptiness of objective existence or independent existence, the way Venerable Geshe-la just explained to us. So there are two things. One is wisdom of emptiness, and there is one called emptiness. So emptiness is not mind, but the wisdom of emptiness is the mind. So we have to make this distinction. And then if you mean to say that awareness of how things really are, if this is your meaning, then this will fall to the category of wisdom of emptiness, the awareness of how things really are, or the awareness of the emptiness of independent existence of things. This we can say that this is wisdom of emptiness and not emptiness, because emptiness, technically speaking, if we study, it is a permanent phenomena, and wisdom has to be an impermanent phenomena, which is mind. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, everyone. So with this, we come to the end of the first session. Now we'll break for lunch for 1 hour. 1:30 to 2:30 is lunch, and then we meet again for the second session. Thank you.